This Castle Crashers mod forces you to fight every single boss in the game without dying. So this is BossR 2.0, and with it comes a Lethal Rush, which is a game mode that makes you fight every single boss on insane mode with crazy modifiers. But before we jump into that mess, we first have some new characters to go over with this mod, such as the Executioner, Fawn, and my personal favourite, the Berserk Viking. But for this Lethal Rush challenge, I'm actually going to go with the Paradox Necromancer, as he has a unique ability that I've not seen anywhere else. So when you perform 2 heavy attacks, the Paradox Necromancer's magic will activate. This uses 0 magic and can be activated mid-juggle or flying, meaning we get extra damage on top of our juggle. The only real downside to this is the audio. Here, have a listen. Anyway, with my character picked, I went and grabbed my animal orb, which is going to be the Fallen one. This is an awesome animal orb that was added to BossR 2.0, and it essentially does damage to every single enemy and boss on the screen, if only we had that in the base game. But for my weapon, I went with this new axe, which gives a massive buff to my strength, defense, and agility. So with my animal orb and weapon acquired, I stepped foot into the Lethal Rush challenge. So Lethal Rush follows all the bosses in order of the story, meaning our first boss is gonna be the War Machine. Now for this fight, I only had to worry about 2 things. First being the unholy amount of bombs this thing drops. Seriously though, where are they storing these cannonballs? The second threat is this barbarian carrying the flag, as he is hyper aggressive and also has this attack which fly swaps me out the sky. But Rekka, why don't you just kill him? Good question, dear viewer. It's because the guy's... So to counter this, I simply just had to turn around whenever I was about to get swatted, knocking over the barbarian and allowing me to continue doing damage. And 51 seconds into the run, I had beaten the first boss. It only goes downhill from here. Next is the barbarian boss, and wait, you're not the barbarian boss. So this next boss fight is almost identical to the regular insane mode barbarian boss, but with some more enemies and an invincible Beefy. Now the only real threat I had to look out for was the Beefy grabbing me out of the air, which happens more than I would like. But for the rest of the enemies, I just allowed the Fallen one to take care of them all. So we defeated the barbarian boss and moved on to the Troll Mother, which looked like this. Yeah, so all we had to do here was not die, as the enemy bombs was damaging the Troll Mother for us. So after blasting my eardrums for 5 minutes, we defeated the Troll Mother, or the trolls defeated the Troll Mother, and then moved on to the abandoned mill. Now the gimmick here was every time the giant troll's left hand slammed the floor, I would take damage. And to avoid this, I simply had to jump right before he slammed. The next boss is Catfish, who has been transformed into Garfield with Tom Fulpbear riding his back. And people say modern art is trash. Anyway, the gimmick here isn't too different from the actual fight, as the only real change is that the Catfish will shoot 2 furballs as well as punch you twice per attack. Now there is another gimmick where you cannot block his attacks if you get hit by Tom Fulphand, but with how easy it is to avoid, that just was not an issue. So after defeating Garfield, we reached our first store of the run. These act as breakpoints throughout the Lethal Rush challenge, allowing you to restock your healing potions and bombs and have a minute to catch your breath. So after restocking my healing potions, I continued the challenge where I now had to face the bear boss of Tallgrass Fields. You know, that really easy boss that you can cheese and juggle. I take it back, I'm sorry, please stop. Yeah, this guy sucked. If I let my guard down for a single millisecond, this guy would hit me with the nastiest combo and use like 3 healing potions. But after like 20 medium juggles, I defeated the bear boss and moved on to PP Strello's cave. PP Strello, the one place I'll feel safe during this challenge.
Hello? Hi.
For PP Shrello's cave, I actually wasn't fighting PP Shrello. Instead, this is Pug Shrello. And for the actual fight, I pretty much just had to stay in the air flying, as being on the ground meant I had to deal with the bear tornado, red slimes, and many baby Pug Shrellos. But this fight wasn't too bad, since I was playing as the Paradox Necromancer, meaning my magic was constantly being summoned by doing the fly combo. So I defeated Pug Shrello and moved on to Wedding Crash? You're telling me I have to complete all of Wedding Crash before I even fight the boss? Well, as long as they don't throw bombs, I think I'll be okay. Oh, this phone again? They all throw bombs? I'm not playing this. No, I quit. I defeated all the cone heads and moved on to the groom. Now the groom fight isn't too different to the one we have in Castle Crashers, except from instead of fighting one groom, we're now fighting two. The gimmick here is that we can only damage the actual groom, and whenever he's on the organ, we kinda just have to avoid the skeleton version. And of course, there are non-stop bombs throughout this whole fight. But after defeating the grooms, I moved on to the parade chase scene where I unfortunately took my first death of this stream. But it was okay, it was only like 30 minutes of my time. So after going back and defeating the War Machine, Beefy Barbarian, Barbarian Boss, Troll Mother, Abandoned Mill, Garfield, and finally restocking my healing potions, I continued. I wanted to do this fair. I didn't want to cheese. But game, you leave me no choice. Enter the clone of the evil wizard. Yeah, so this guy's splash magic is the evil wizard sword twirly thing, which does an insane amount of damage to both bosses and regular enemies, allowing me to blitz through the stages and get back to Wedding Crash in under 12 minutes. I then spam this move on all of the enemies before finally making my way back to the parade. Oh, and I also have a banana bomb, just don't question it. So the gimmick for the giant troll is that he will do constant damage every time he slams his hand. This is unavoidable damage, meaning we will die over time. However, every now and then a piece of fruit will spawn on the carriage. This is what we need to survive. But at the same time, thieves will also spawn in the carriage who can do damage to me as well as steal my fruit, resulting in a drawn out fight. But things don't get better in the next encounter, as I now have to fight the Cyclops alongside the undead groom and this conehead elite. Oh, and the Cyclops also damages me every time he jumps, because why not? Now if you're looking at this and thinking, man, this does not seem possible, then yeah, I would agree. That's why it's unfortunate to announce that I couldn't beat this. Yeah, straight up, I could not do this challenge. After all of my attempts through my 3 different streams, I only got to about halfway through the lethal rush. So I decided that instead of trying to beat it for myself, I'm going to help you. Ruby was kind enough to send me a special build of the mod, giving me access to the kill command. And by using this, I could go and look at all of the encounters so you know what to expect. But first, we've got our second rest point of the run, which is inside the church door, where we can see some pretty interesting dialogue. The next boss of the run is the Volcano, who now has 4 fire demons doing ninja flips, as well as constant lava spurts. Now this one's not too bad, as you could still trap the fire demons on the other side of the volcano, meaning if you play carefully, you could beat this boss without losing much health. The next boss is the dragon, who has had a really cool recolor. I love this black design, and I think it suits him more than the red. For the actual fight, this is a boss that has not changed too much. Fire demons will constantly spawn, meaning you have to deal with more than one, and the fire does a lot more damage. But apart from that, this fight is pretty similar. So after defeating the dragon, we get a quick glimpse of our future looking bosses. But before them, we have to fight the industrial machine, which has probably my favourite change in the mod. Oh, Marcus! He's in the mod! Marcus is in the mod! What? The next challenge in Lethal Rush isn't actually a boss fight. Instead, it's whatever this thing is. So you have to win the volleyball game against 5 beefy cult minions, whilst they also have a 10 head start. You heard right, the score to win this is 40. However, my cult minions were feeling kinda sleepy, so they coincidentally kept falling down whenever the ball went to their side. After the volleyball game, we once again get a rest stop in the Volcano store, where even the shopkeeper likes baked beans. Seriously guys, have you tried them on toast? Just get some baked beans and put them on toast. The next boss is the corn boss, and I don't even know how to describe this. Oh, okay. Oh, what was that scream? And there are snakies? Yeah, good luck beating that one. The next boss is Medusa, who is now bricked up. Wait, no, hold on. The next boss is Medusa, who is now rock hard. Wait, that's not any better. The next boss is Medusa, who is as stiff as a stone. Right, no, who is writing this script? Anyway, the Medusa fight will now have a boulder that will constantly spawn in. The melee snake can no longer be blocked, and the poison snake's projectiles will now bounce a few times. But not all is bad, since her love beam no longer turns you into stone. And hey, you get a free healing potion upon destroying her. The next boss is actually another level, since you have to do all of Snow World with these red Eskimos. But this level isn't too hard. Just be aware that these new Eskimos are no longer a light juggle. The next boss is the Frost King, who, yeah, he's one shot. He just straight up dies. But I'm not complaining, as that's one less annoying fight that we have to do. But speaking of annoying, and in the next rest stop, my Glorp isn't there. This honestly is unforgivable, and I don't think any of you should even download this mod. In fact, I think we should all boycott this until Glorp is added back in his rightful throne. Anyway, assuming Glorp is now back in the game, the next boss is the Painter, who has had a bit of a growth spurt. So for phase 1 of this fight, the only real difference is that there are more paintings early on, and there are also skeletons that you have to deal with. Phase 2 on the other hand, has all paintings spawned track onto you. So good luck trying to get any damage on the Painter. The next boss is the Undead Cyclops, who now has the shotgun ability from Gluck's playable Cyclops mod. And apart from that, this phase of the Undead Cyclops is almost the same. But where things ramp up in difficulty is during the Groom phase, as you now have to defeat undead coneheads who will love to spam their bombs. The next boss is the Necromancer, who has honestly had one of the best changes in this whole challenge. No more enemies. However, we now have to fight the Necromancer that's the same one I was using at the start of this challenge. You know, the one that has the really OP magic that activates when meleeing. But hey, as long as he doesn't fight like the bear, we should stand a chance.
Alright, I'm getting juggled. Not as bad as the bear though, I will say. Okay, maybe as bad as the bear.
And for the final boss of the run, we take the elevator as normal, and hey, dude, what? We're not even in the fight! Anyway, actually starting the fight, and the first phase has 2 extra crystals. This is pretty similar to the vanilla fight, and you shouldn't really struggle here. The next phase has some enhanced attacks, and the first bowl phase has extra enemies you have to deal with. This carries over into the next phase, where they now use horns to knock you down. The second bowl phase has more balls. And the final phase once again sees more enemies with anti-air horns. But if you power through and somehow manage to beat this insanely difficult challenge, you get rewarded with this.
And GG. Oh, that's the Xbox achievement sound.
Yo. And that was the Lethal Rush boss challenge. Now, I was only able to get to the Cyclops before I got hard stuck. And this was after 3 streams and multiple hours of attempts. So I'm curious to see how far you guys can get and if anyone can actually beat it. So if you want to try it out yourself, then I'll link Ruby's YouTube channel in the link below, as well as the link to the mod. Make sure to show them some love, as this is one of my favourite mods I've ever played. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.